Prince William County School Board will now call itself to order. We will vote on something here. We're going to vote on approval of the agenda. Motion's order, Mr. Blake.
I move that the Prince William County School Board approve the meeting agenda as recommended.
Mr. Chairman?
Second? Yeah, Ms.
Second.
Williams. Ms. Williams, seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. Any opposed, say nay. No opposition. Motion passes unanimously. The next, a motion to enter closed session. Motion's order, Ms. Blake.
I move that pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711 and 2.2-3712, the Prince William County School Board enter closed session for the following reasons. 1, to discuss with staff the assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, disciplining, or resignation of specific public officers, appointees, or employees of any public body pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A and 1. 2, to review disciplinary matters for a specific student that would involve the disclosure of information contained in the scholastic record for the individual student, and to receive legal advice regarding the same as provided by Virginia Code 2.2-3711A, 2, and 8. 3, to discuss with Division Counsel and staff actual and probable litigation involving staff, students, and the school division, and specific legal matters regarding administrative investigations under Virginia Code 2.2-3711A, 7, and 8. And 4, to discuss and receive briefings by staff members related to security of school facilities, the safety of persons using such facilities, and actions taken to respond to such matters where discussion in an open meeting would jeopardize the security of such facilities pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A, 19, and 5, to discuss the award of public contracts to employees exclusive representatives, which involves the expenditure of public funds and the term or scope of such contract where discussion in open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body pursuant to Virginia Code 2.2-3711A, 29.
Second.
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Williams.
Second.
Any discussion? Please vote.
Vote is 8 yes, unanimous, motion passed.
Okay. Okay, fine. Moving on to, that's it. We'll go to closed session. We'll be back here in about an hour. Prince William County School Board is now returning to open session from closed session. Closed session certification is in order. Mr. Blake.
I move that pursuant to Section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia, the closed session of the Prince William County School Board meeting of February 5th, 2025 be certified by adopting the following resolution. Now therefore be it resolved that the Prince William County School Board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, 1, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements were discussed in closed meetings to which this certification resolution applies, and 2, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard and discussed or considered by the school board.
Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman,
Mrs. Zargarpur.
I second.
Any discussion? Please vote.
Vote is 8 yes, unanimous, motion passed.
Moving on to closed session action items, a motion in order. Mr. Blake.
I move that the Prince William County School Board approve appointments and releases of specific employees as presented in closed session.
Do I have a second?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Zargarpur.
I second.
Any discussion? Please vote.
Vote is 8 yes, unanimous, motion passed.
Thank you. This concludes our closed session action items. Moving on to Pledge of Allegiance, I'd like to invite our student representative, Ala Rashid, who's senior attending Unity Reed High School, to lead us in our pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. At this time, we're going to move on to Thriving Futures Focus. Thriving Futures Focus is a time to celebrate the outstanding achievements of our students, staff, and schools as they work toward fulfilling our shared vision, ensuring that every student graduates with the knowledge, skills, and habits of mind necessary to create a thriving future. This evening, the school board is honored to acknowledge 2 outstanding choral programs for their performance in November at the Virginia Music Educators Association, or VMEA, state-level conference. It is important to note that very few musical groups receive an invitation to perform at the VMEA state conference. The mission of the VMEA is to enhance quality music education across the Commonwealth by offering leadership, instructional resources, and professional development opportunities for Virginia music educators. To begin introducing tonight's honorees, I begin with Ms. Lisa Zargarpur, representative from the Coles District.
Thank you, Chairman Lateef. The Coles District is proud to represent Charles J. Colgan Senior High School for their stellar performance at the VMEA State Level Conference. Representing Colgan tonight is Principal Dr. Tim Healy and Choral Director Carrie Staley. Ms. Staley, would you please introduce your students and share a few thoughts on this honor? And are they going to sing anything?
Are we going to sing anything?
I would, point of privilege, I would totally love it if there was a little whoop.
A little boop. No worries. Good evening, Chairman Lateef, members of the school board, and Dr. McDade. Thank you so much for inviting us tonight. It was an honor to represent Prince William County Schools at the state level, performing for an audience of collegiate, high school, and middle school choir directors and other music directors from across Virginia. Behind me are select members of Colgan's Chamber Ensemble, representing all 38 singers who worked hard to prepare a 30-minute, fully memorized choral performance with impressive artistry. Our theme touched on the power of words, both unique to the choral component of music education and the power they have within our community and everyday lives. We are grateful for the collaboration and community building we had with Marsteller Middle School, which you'll hear from soon, and our neighbors in Loudoun County Rockridge High School, where we performed a VMEA send-off together to build a community within our choral world. We also would like to have a great amount of thanks to you all for supporting music education within our schools. It's so important to continue that, and thank you for having us here tonight.
So thank you, Ms. Staley, and congratulations to the entire Colgan High School Music Department for representing the Coles District with such distinction.
We'll come back and sing for you another time.
Thank you so much. Thank you and congratulations, Colgan High School. Miss Erica Trudenik from the Brentsville District, please recognize your outstanding program.
Thank you. The Brentsville District proudly recognizes Marsteller Middle School for their outstanding performance at the VMEA State Conference. Representing Marsteller Middle School tonight is Choral Director Philip Kierstead. Mr. Kierstead, would you introduce your students and provide some comments on this recognition?
Thank you, Chairman and School Board and Superintendent McDade. And also, Mrs. Trudenick failed to mention that her son is in this group that got to perform at VMEA. Performing at the Virginia Music Educators Association State Conference has been on my bucket list since I started teaching. In fact, I had applied 3 times before finally being selected. On the bus after the performance, I told my students that the powers that be were just waiting for the right choir, them. On the ride home, I gave them a writing assignment just to process everything that happened that day and the associated feelings. While many wrote of how great it was to see 2 months' worth of rehearsal come to fruition, the majority of their writing was about how much fun it was doing something they love with their friends, their chorus brothers, as I call them. To quote one of them, "I love this group of people." I've never had a group of students so committed to each other, so intent on lifting each other up. It is this aspect of music education, the relationships that are inevitably and irrevocably formed, that is often overlooked among the standard data points. I'm grateful to work for a district, a community, a school, and a principal who values the work I and these young people do. I don't teach music to kids, I teach kids through music. To quote another one of their writings, who was also quoting one of our songs that we performed that day, "I didn't just sing today, I was found." Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kierstead. I will say that although my sweet nugget is not here, Mr. Kierstead doesn't only provide music, as he's talking about, he gives them confidence. And my baby's actually singing at church on stage tonight, and would have never done that if he wasn't in this program. So thank you, Mr. Kierstead, for that. And congrats, boys.
Thank you and congratulations to Marsteller Middle School for their impressive performance at the VMA Conference. We have just one more special recognition. I invite Mr. Justin Wilk of the Great Potomac District to present our next honoree.
Thank you, Dr. Lateef. The school board would like to recognize Supervisor of Arts, Dr. Anne-Marie Bellino, for receiving Outstanding Administrator Award from the Virginia Music Educators Association. Dr. Bellino is currently chair of the National Association for Music Education Music Program Leaders Council and vice president of the Virginia Music Educators Association. Her passion for growing the profession is evident through her work with pre-service arts educators at several institutions in Virginia. She has served on the state's Arts Standards Writing Committee and as a grant panelist for several agencies. As a member of the Virginia Coalition for Fine Arts Education, Dr. Bellino is leading the Commonwealth's effort to bring arts education data to stakeholders through the Arts Education Data Project. She is a fierce advocate for arts education and frequently present during sessions and research at state, national, and international conferences. Dr. Bellino, would you share a few words on this remarkable achievement?
Thank you, Dr. Lateef, Mr. Wilk, members of the board, and Dr. McDade. So first of all, let me just say that it's such an honor to represent Prince William County Public Schools. To receive such a recognition, I think, is indicative of the efforts of not just me, but the team that we have here, the arts team at the KLC. Obviously, these exceptional teachers, our students, our school administrators, our central office folks, our school board, of course. And it's very humbling to be recognized by your peers for such a wonderful honor. And so that means a lot to me and to you all for recognizing me this evening. May I also just say congratulations to Carrie and Philip. I mean, their words are remarkable, and that's just who they are as humans. What you see in the classroom, what you see here today is absolutely what happens in the classroom. And as somebody who was in the audience, right, so you all had this exceptional experience at the conference, and I also received an award at the conference. But as somebody who was in the audience watching our students, and then seeing the audience around me, as they engaged with the powerful, thoughtful, and fun, right? Because that's why we do it, right? It's fun. To watch that in action, it gave me so much pride in what we do here in Prince William County Public Schools. And that's because of our teachers, our students, our administrators, you, and our community. I think our community really supports, promotes music and arts education. So kudos to all of you, and thank you again for my recognition as well. It means a lot.
Congratulations, Dr. Bellino. I would like to recognize all the families here tonight who've supported our amazing students and staff. If the families would please rise in recognition of their great contributions. We all know how hard you work and how many places you get these folks to, and the success of these students would not be recognized without great parents, families, guardians like we have this evening. So thank you very much. We are truly grateful you all picked Prince William County Schools to be educated in and call home. Before we take a group photo, I'd like to invite Dr. Superintendent, Dr. Latanya McDade, to share a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One, I just want to say how incredibly proud I am of you, but more than that, congratulations on your achievement. And I want you to know how inspired we are by your artistic talent and creativity, and you continue to make PWCS so proud. To our choir directors, Ms. Staley and Mr. Kierstead, thank you so much for your unwavering commitment and service to Prince William County Schools students. The love that you have for your craft and for your students really shines through, not just in your words, but in your action as well, in the way that you interact and engage our young people to bring out the best in their creativity. So thank you so much for all of your hard work and commitment. And then Dr. Healy, I noticed that Dr. Healy was here. He's trying to hide. You know, I always call out our school leaders because I tell them all the time that, you know, amazing programming only happens when our leaders create the conditions for our educators and our students to thrive, right? So continuing to support the programming in your school and making sure that your educators have what they need to be successful with the students is something that is powerful. And so I also want to commend you as well as our Marcella principal. I don't think I saw her here tonight, but just want to say thank you to you for your leadership also. And then Dr. Bellino, thank you so much for the incredible energy and passion that you've brought to Prince William County and the love that you have for arts education. You know firsthand from being in meetings with me how much I appreciate and love arts education from a personal perspective, and I want everyone in this room to know that in Prince William County Schools, we will continue to invest in arts education because we know that the only way that students really can succeed is through a well-rounded experience, and arts education is a critical component of the experience that we provide to our students. So congratulations to each and every one of you. We are PWCS proud.
Thank you, Dr. McDade. I think those words were right on point, and we are proud of the arts in our school division. So thank you. At this time, we'd like to invite our honorees to come forward to group photo. Diana Galata will direct which groups go first.
Marcel, parents, come on up, we'll take pictures.
Swish.
He's the.
Yeah.
Want to be back here? You can take care.
There we go. Still, the guy with the glasses. I'm so sorry, guys.
Can't see
Savannah.
your face. Come up front.
There we go. That looks good.
That's better.
Okay. All right. Everybody look.
Come back here. Come back here. Right here. Right here. You got a good.
There we go.
No, I can take us by the high school. Maybe if the twins are hiring. Step brothers, I guess. Yeah. It's the only one that has
Diane, need one more challenge.
Okay, thank you, everyone. At this time, we will be moving on to, wait for it, adoption of consent agenda. Motions in order, 11.01. Mr. Blake.
I move that the Prince William County School Board approve the public meeting consent agenda as recommended.
Do you have a second?
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Williams.
Second.
Any discussion? No discussions? Please vote.
Vote is 8 yes, unanimous, motion passed.
Okay, great. Moving on to acknowledgements and recognitions. A motion is in order. Mr. Blake.
I move that the Prince William County School Board approve the acknowledgements and recognitions as recommended.
Do you have a second?
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Williams.
Second.
Please vote.
Vote is 7 yes, 1 abstain, motion passed, or 1 abstain, Tredinick, motion passed.
Okay, next up is citizen comment time. Citizen comment time period is for regular school board meetings and opportunity for citizens to speak on agenda items or other topics germane to the operations and policies of Prince William County Schools. Tonight, we do not have any citizens who've completed the sign-up process, so this time we'll move on to student representative time. This evening, our student, Ala Rashid, who is a senior attending Unity Reed High School, will present comments. Ms. Rashid.
Good evening to the Prince William County School Board, community, and Dr. McDade. I am happy to be back on the dais representing my peers again. Students had shared their favorite parts of the last semester with me, and the majority had said clubs and school spirit. Many felt it had been a great way to get them out of their comfort zone and that it was a perfect way to create a positive school environment. Students had also enjoyed hands-on experiences this semester, such as outside classroom experiences. This is something that many students think should be emphasized in classes such as environmental systems because of the experience associated with it. However, some students did say that they were unable to attend said activity because of the lack of transportation. Some schools provide activity buses on days like Tuesdays and Thursdays, allowing for accessibility with their activities. However, some do not. This is something students believe is necessary, which is why, student representative, I am asking for reconsideration on activity buses for all schools because the students in the county deserve the opportunity to stay after when needed. This provides students with ease in their school life, whether it is staying after for clubs or schoolwork. Another aspect of transportation is the long wait time some students face in the mornings. I do understand that the division is working diligently on the issue as we experience winter conditions, many students are outside waiting for buses. Students have shared that this is a burden for them, that it creates their mornings to be hectic because of the cold weather. Another point I want to touch on in my remarks is bathroom safety. Some schools have introduced vape detectors that students feel are useful and should be emphasized throughout the county. This is something students feel are needed to combat the issue of drug use, so it should have an important emphasis countywide. And in the schools that it's present in, many students do feel that it's doing something. This also ties into bathroom safety and how students believe an emphasis on that should be made because of how drug use and other aspects create an uneasy environment for many students. Restoring bathrooms is another topic some students had felt had been important because of the age of some schools. It does not and should not be a complete remodel, but rather updating smaller aspects that students feel are important, such as sinks and things like that. Lastly, many schools are hosting events for Black History Month with many students who joined the videos and posts the division had made. From assemblies to presentations, each student involved put so much effort for this event, and I hope we all get the chance to participate and or see what takes place throughout the month. That will be all for my remarks this evening. Thank you so much, and I hope everyone has an amazing evening.
Thank you, Ms. Rashid. Next up, superintendent's time. Dr. McDade.
Thank you, Dr. Lateef. Well, as you can see by the colorful banners and creative artwork displayed throughout the room tonight, this is School Board Appreciation Month. So we want to acknowledge our school board members for your commitment and service to PWCS students, families, and community. And on behalf of PWCS, we express our gratitude to all of our board members for your unwavering dedication to fulfilling the vision of Prince William County Schools. We salute you. Thank you so much. During National School Counseling Week, I encourage students, families, teachers, and administrators to take the time to acknowledge our counseling teams. They handle the demanding emotional work required to provide essential care for numerous students. Their tireless efforts are pivotal in shaping and supporting an effective learning environment. And so we are incredibly grateful for all of our school counselors and want to show our gratitude during School Counselor Week. February also marks Black History Month, a significant observance that highlights the resilience, creativity, and transformative contributions of African Americans, both individually and collectively. The narratives, achievements, and contributions of African Americans are integral to the fabric of global history. Please look for features from the school division and our schools throughout the month of February as PWCS acknowledges this annual commemoration of the achievements and heritage of African Americans. This evening, I would like to present our FY26 Superintendent's proposed budget. Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair Mr. Blake, Prince William County School Board, staff members, and our community, I present to you this evening the Superintendent's FY 2026 proposed budget and capital improvement program. Joining me this evening to present the fiscal year 26 proposed superintendent's budget is Chief Financial Officer Mr. Shaquille Youssef, Chief Human Resources Officer Dr. Donna Eagle, and Chief Operating Officer Mr. Vernon Bott. I want to extend my gratitude to the school board for your ongoing support, collaborative dialogue, and feedback in the development of the budget. Behind the scenes, over the past few months, as we have been developing the budget, our school board members have been given us a lot of feedback, and their voice has been instrumental in ensuring that we are addressing key priorities within the budget. There's also an opportunity to make additions during markup where our board members give additional feedback after the presentation this evening. And so I do want to extend my gratitude for all of the hard work that you put in making sure that we have a budget that's not only fiscally responsible, but also one that is responsive to the needs of our school communities. All budget allocations are driven by the priorities set forth in our 2025 Launching Thriving Future strategic plan and support our continued improvement as a school system. Before we begin the public presentation, I also want to take the opportunity to share my appreciation for our budget team who's sitting here with us this evening. They have been working around the clock, literally, planning and executing this year's budget process, which is a monumental task. And this year, the budget team revamped the budget process to make it more streamlined, to make sure we're more effective. And this has been one of the smoothest budget planning processes that I've experienced during my tenure here. So I really want to thank our Chief Financial Officer, Shaquille Youssef, our Director of Budget, Joseph Mondaro, our Assistant Director of Budget, Kathleen Addison, and Supervisor of Budget, Natasha Valencia, as well as your entire budget team. Thank you so much for all of your hard work to bring our presentation together for this evening. Our collective responsibility in PWCS is to ensure that every student will graduate on time with the knowledge, skills, and habits of mind necessary to create a thriving future for themselves and their community. And it is our vision that drives our comprehensive strategic plan, which is comprised of 4 key commitments: learning and achievement for all, positive climate and culture, family and community engagement, and organizational coherence. Every strong school system aligns their finances to be driven by their strategic priorities. To ensure fiscal responsibility each year, we bring forward investments that are tied to the strategic plan and these 4 commitments. During the fiscal year 26 budget presentation, we will delve into each of the 4 commitments and review the proposed investment highlights. But before we get to the actual investments, I would like to share a few quick facts about Prince William County Schools demographics. Prince William County Public Schools is the second largest school system in Virginia, and our county is the most diverse in the Commonwealth. We're also the 10th most diverse county in the nation. Our student population is represented by 159 countries with over 170 languages spoken. This information is crucial as it shows the significant changes in our student population and needs affecting school funding and resources. What you see at the bottom of the screen broken out is specifically that we have a growing number of students who are identified as English learners. Currently, we have 23,660 English learners, which is our fastest growing population. Our students with disabilities have increased to 13,249, and we have more than 29,000 students who have been identified as economically disadvantaged by federal criteria. Given the significant growth in the student populations I've highlighted, the cost per pupil to educate our students with higher needs has also increased. Looking at the regional comparison here, it shows how our demographic information compares to the state and surrounding school divisions. Additionally, this chart displays the cost per pupil in each school division. As we compete with our regional peers, their cost per pupil spending outpaces ours by $261 to $350 million. Our current cost per pupil, coupled with the growing needs of our student population, does impact how we consider resourcing our schools today and in the future to meet the unique needs of every learner as those needs are shifting. Before we get into the strategic investments, I would like to invite Mr. Youssef to review the enrollment changes and budget highlights, which impacts our investments. Following Mr. Youssef, Dr. Eagle, our Chief Human Resources Officer, will provide updates on fiscal year 26 compensation and health insurance premiums, which we are incredibly proud of, and you will see will be the lion's share of the budget presentation this evening. Mr. Youssef?
Thank you. Chairman Lateef, members of the school board, and Dr. McDade, I would also like to take a moment to thank my budget team, with our budget director, Joe Mondoro, and his team for their hard work and due diligence. I would also like to thank Dr. McDade for her guidance and support as we navigated through this budget development, and members of the cabinet who worked very closely in developing our strategic initiatives. And a special acknowledgement to our Chief Human Resource Officer, Dr. Donna Eagle, and our Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Vern Bach, who provided invaluable input for the compensation and CIP areas. One of the primary drivers for the development of the FY 2026 budget, as with other years, is our enrollment. These enrollment figures are reflective of decreases in birth rates, as well as the ongoing trend of domestic net out migration from Prince William County, as well as relatively lower housing growth rates that contribute to the downward trend in enrollment. The chart on the left shows a decline in elementary and high school projections, with a slight increase in the one-year projection for the middle schools. As these smaller cohorts continue to progress through all three levels are expected to decline our enrollment projections. And so for the FY 2026 budget, our projected annual enrollment is 89,442 students, a reduction of 2,633 students from the FY 2025 projection of 92,105. Moving on to enrollment trends, the chart on the left shows our actual enrollment data from September 30th for the years 2018 to 2024, along with projections through the 2029-30 school year. Each school division usually provides September 30th data to VDOE, and that is a very important count that we have, so that's why we've used the September 30th for each of these years. And as you can see, that the projections from 2025 to 2028 show a steep decline in enrollment, with a slight increase in 2030. Now, on the right side, while the overall enrollment is declining, there's still increases in specific student membership categories, and these require additional funding. The chart on the right depicts a 5-year change in students with special needs, economically disadvantaged students, and English learners. Students with special needs increased by 11.3%, economically disadvantaged students by close to 15%, and English learners by 23.3%. Now let's discuss the overall budget for the operating and debt fund for FY 2026. The proposed total operating budget and debt budget amounts to $1.89 billion, reflecting an increase of $111.3 million from the approved FY 2025 budget of $1.78 billion. The next chart talks about our sources and uses of our funds and where the money comes from, where it goes. And if you look on the left, in terms of our sources of funding, almost 47% of our total funding comes from the county. 41% comes from state aid, and another 7% from sales tax, totaling 48%. So the breakout between county and state is almost the same. 2.7 comes from federal funds. And then we round out with use of our beginning balance at 2.3 and other funds at 0.4%. In terms of uses of our fund, the majority of funds is for instruction, 78.5%, with remaining funds for central support at 9.3%, facilities management at 5.9%, transportation at 5%, and we do have some reserves in this budget at 1.3%.
Mr. Youssef?
Yes.
Quick question. So on this chart where it says federal aid 2.7, that's total, that's all aid, federal, all in. It only makes up 2.7% of the budget?
Correct. But in terms of a dollar amount, it totals almost $48 million.
No, I understand that, but like, I think when I started, a few years ago, we were at like 10 to 15% federal aid.
Well, remember in the last few years, we had the ESSA money and the ARPA money come in, so that may have bumped it up, but we can always come back and provide you with what happened in the prior years.
No, but clearly over the last few years, federal aid becomes a much smaller portion of our budget.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So in terms of our revenue changes, we forecasted increases based on the counties, for the county revenue, most recent 5-year forecast. Additional details of where the county is progressing towards will come available when the county executive presents their budget, which is on February 18th of this month, and as they progress through their budget approval. So $54.8 million is the increase in county revenue, or almost 6.1%. State revenue is based on the governor's budget release on December 18th. And as you may be aware, that there is a bill both in the House and the Senate, in the General Assembly, that's making its way through. But for now, we are projecting a $46.8 million increase at 5.8%. As I said earlier, federal revenue increased by $2.3 million, and mainly due to additional funding in Title I, Title II, and Head Start programs. In terms of other revenue, we have a $1.3 million increase, mainly from rebates from our purchasing card programs and our participation in purchasing consortiums. Finally, we are increasing our beginning balance by $6.1 million to provide for certain one-time costs. This chart or schedule shows a comparison of our FY 2025 and FY 2026 budgets. Revenues are reported by major line items, and the total available funds include the beginning balance, which amounts to $1.89 billion. And as you can see, the available funds are increasing by $111.3 million. Debt service expenditures increased by $6.7 million, 5.8%, and operating fund expenditures increased by $104 million, or 6.2%. So of the $111.3 million increase, this is how it has been applied. $83.2 million has been applied towards compensation. As we have experienced a reduction in enrollment, the effect of the change in enrollment results in a reduction of funding, net reduction of $11.8 million towards our per pupil. Another $46.7 million is towards strategic investments, and then the $6.8 million are some adjustments that we did to our budget, mainly removing one-time charges, et cetera, from the prior years. So I would like to request our Chief Human Resources Officer, Dr. Donna Eagle, to walk us through the compensation changes.
Thank you, Mr. Youssef. Good evening, Dr. Lateef, members of the board, and Dr. McDade. This evening, I'll be providing an overview of our recommended improvements in our compensation and our changes to our benefit premiums. As you're aware, our strategic plan, Launching Thriving Futures, includes regionally competitive pay and benefits as one of our priorities. Over the last 3 budget cycles, we've been able to make significant investments in improving the compensation and our benefits, and are pleased that we can continue those investments to ensure regionally competitive pay. As an educational system, we're in the people business. And with over 85% of our budget dedicated to personnel, it's imperative that the compensation and benefits stay competitive to retain our outstanding staff in order to recruit talent to the division. Furthermore, our continued investments reflect our commitment to recognizing and rewarding the hard work, expertise, and passion that our staff bring to their roles each and every day. By investing in our educators, we are not only honoring their dedication, but also enhancing the overall quality of education and support to our students. Together, we're building thriving futures for our students and our community. Before I get started into the numbers, I would like to send out a thank you to Ms. Lisa Fry, our HR Special Projects rock star, and Dr. Bondi Shea Gibson-Learn, our new employee and labor relations supervisor, for all their hard work in preparing compensation models in support of the compensation discussions during the collective bargaining process, along with the rest of the bargaining team. So our proposal, is across the board. We kind of have the same goals, and we're in the same situation. It's inclusive of our teachers, our classified staff, and our administrators. What we have found through our salary surveys is that we need to improve our starting wages and our salaries. And we need to hold the line on our mid-scale positions, because as you all know, we've done some work in that area over the last few years. And we need to curtail the top of our scale from getting higher, as the tops of our scales are higher than the market. As a result, you'll see that our recommendations all involve rebuilt scales with higher percentage increases for staff placed on lower steps of the scales, and that we are curtailing the top of our scales by introducing longevity steps. First, I'll share our recommendations for our teacher group, which is all grade 12 staff, inclusive of those licensed by both the VDOE, such as our teachers and our counselors and librarians and so forth, and also those holding health licenses, such as our nurses, OT, PT, and so forth. For our teacher group, the budget includes an overall average salary increase of 6.8%. The actual increases vary from 3 to 11.5%, depending upon the lane and the step placement of the individual staff member. We increased the entry step for our teachers by over 9% in order to ensure we can compete for talent So the entry pay for teachers will now rise from $57,340 for those with a bachelor's degree to this coming school year, it will be $62,562. That's an increase of over $5,000. For teachers with masters, those amounts are $6,000 higher. In addition, our new grade 12 pay scale has been decompressed, meaning that there's now a unique step that corresponds for each year of credited, verified teaching experience. Our published scale will have 30 steps, one for each year of credited experience. As stated earlier, the percentage increases vary, with those at the lower steps and those moving multiple steps as part of the decompression receiving the higher percentage increases. As you've seen in our salary studies, our compensation for teachers who have achieved the 30-year milestone is above market rates. Therefore, as I stated, we've introduced longevity steps for those teachers to ensure that they do receive the minimum 3%, which corresponds to the next step on the current pay scale. Longevity steps will drop from the published pay scale as the salary on the top step for a teacher in their 30th year of teaching meets or exceeds the longevity step. Moving on to our classified workforce, comprised of staff in grades 1 to 11, the budget contains an overall average of 7.4%. Each staff member, except those at the very top, will receive a step movement. And similar to certified, we've increased the entry step 8.5% to better attract and retain talent. Also similar to certified, we found that the salaries at the top end of the scale are above market and have introduced longevity steps with those scales as well. As a result, the raises will vary from 3 to 11.4%, with those at the top of the scale receiving the lower percentage increases and those placed on lower step numbers receiving the largest percentage increases. Finally, our recommendation for the administrative pay scale includes an overall average of 6.8%. Salary studies show the same story as teachers and classified pay scales, and that starting salaries need improvement. In addition, over the years, teacher percentage increases have outpaced that of administrators. As a result, there's more significant overlap of the teacher scale with the administrative pay scale, making it difficult to equitably place staff moving from teacher to administrative roles. To that end, our recommendation is to increase the entry salaries on all of our administrative scales. Also similar to certified and classified, the top of the scale is above market, so our rebuild of this scale includes longevity steps to help curtail the top. Increases will vary, with those placed on the lower step numbers receiving the largest increases. Each staff member, except those at the very top, will receive a step movement. We're also pleased to share some other compensation highlights as a result of the collective bargaining process with the Prince William Education Association. As you know, the tentative agreement is for a 2-year period and focuses on regional competitiveness. Overall, combining the certified and classified bargaining units together, the agreement includes an average of 7% for this coming fiscal year and 6.4% overall for FY27. Some other highlights: we doubled the stipend for IEP case management from $1,000 to $2,000 for our special educators. Dually certified teachers who are providing English language case management, in addition to serving as a teacher of record for content course, will also receive a $2,000 stipend annually. We added a $1,000 stipend for elementary strings teachers. We increased the amount of any supplement, which you all know we use for to compensate our staff for clubs and sports. Any supplement that was below market, according to the Gallagher Supplements study, bringing all supplements at least to the midpoint of the market. We also increased the number of some of our supplements to ensure adequate coverage. And finally, we increased the night shift differential, doubling it from 2.5 to 5%. In total, including administrators, this package represents an overall average increase of 6.9%. This next chart illustrates teacher pay progression from the start of Dr. McDade's tenure with PWCS in FY22 to our proposed recommendations for FY26. And this is for teachers in what we call the benchmark years, which are teachers at 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and so forth. To orient you, the top chart provides salaries for our teachers with bachelor's degrees, and the bottom chart includes salaries for teachers with master's degrees. If you focus on the FY26 column, which is bumped out, you'll start at the top of the chart, the first row. The FY26 shows the recommended salary for a teacher who will have completed 5 years of teaching as of this June 30th, 2025. And that salary will be $69,584. On that same row, you'll see the annual salary history for that staff member. In the first column along the top, you'll see the salary of that staff member was earning in the 21-22 school year when they had 1 year of teaching experience, which was $52,292. Moving right from that cell, you'll see their salary progress as their years of experience increase. Currently, in this school year, they're earning $65,289, as you'll see in the FY25 column. With the budgeted recommended salary, the difference in total compensation over the 4 budget years for this particular teacher is $17,292, which is a 33.1% difference between FY22 and FY26. As you move down the rows, you'll see the same data for a teacher that will be completing their 10th, 15th, and 20th year of teaching this June. The bottom chart contains the same data for a teacher with a master's degree. As you'll note, teachers completing their 15th year of teaching this June have realized the largest increases on this chart. This is a result of the decompression of the pay scale and also the prior year investments that were made to increase pay for our mid-career teachers, which was an area of the scale where we were the least competitive. Overall, teachers in these benchmark years will realize total increases from 24.4 to 42.1% over these 4 budget cycles. And while cost of living is certainly a factor that has impacted the real value of wages, we have definitely gained ground since FY22 in ensuring regionally competitive pay. That said, we're going to need to continue to prioritize compensation and closely monitor market competitiveness to ensure we can retain and attract an outstanding workforce. Finally, I'll be providing a summary of our healthcare premiums, but before I go too far, I will remind the board that we do offer our staff a very rich healthcare benefit. The benefits team routinely surveys other school divisions in our surveys regarding their benefits, and we have found that we are the only school division in the region whose plans do not include deductibles. Over the years, many of our peers have made plan design changes, including addition of deductibles as a cost control measure, and also to bring awareness to covered members of the actual cost of services in the hopes of influencing the healthcare consumer's behavior in choosing care with cost as a consideration. Currently, none of our plans contain deductibles, but we continue to consider plan design changes. On this slide, you'll see our history of premiums and increases, along with our recommendation for FY26 for our 4 plan options. The first 3 plans, it's Enhanced, Core, and the HMO plan, are self-insured plans, which give us more flexibility in setting premiums. The plan at the bottom, the Kaiser plan, is a fully insured HMO plan, and therefore premiums are provided by Kaiser. The premium paid depends on the plan and the tier, whether or not you're employee, employee plus children, employee plus spouse, or employee plus family. Each of the columns indicates the total monthly premium for the respective plan and tier, starting with the 22-23 school year, so we're looking at the same 4 budget years in the first column and advancing each year to the final column, which has our recommended premium increases for the 25-26 school year. The numbers provided are monthly increases, but in practice, this amount is actually divided in half and deducted evenly from the 2 paychecks each month. If you orient your eye to the 24-25 column, which is representative of our current employee health insurance premiums, on the top row, you'll see the Enhanced plan, our highest level of benefits, It's our plan with the highest benefits and the highest premiums. The premium for employee-only coverage is $132.42 a month. We're recommending a 5% premium increase. So for this plan and tier, the premium would increase $6.62 from its current amount of $132.42, bringing it to a total of $139.04 a month. Annualized, this is an additional $79.44 a year. Next, if you just look at the bottom plan, the Kaiser plan, this is our plan with the lowest premiums and the highest level of health care management. We're recommending a 5% increase there as well. So for the employee-only tier, the premium would increase $1.52 per month, and annualized, this is a total of $18.24 a year. As you'll review the chart, you'll see the recommendations for all plans are for a 5% increase on the premium, not to be confused with a 5% increase based on a staff member's salary. The dollar amount increases per month on the plans range from $1.52 a month for the employee-only Kaiser plan to $42.80 a month for the family tier of the enhanced plan, our richest plan. Annually, that's a total increase that ranges from $18.24 to $513.60. And to offer some perspective, the average teacher raise in the budget is just over $5,700. The final slide illustrates the cumulative employee increases for our health insurance plans since the 1920 school year. For each plan, the cumulative increase is provided by tier level, which are the colored bars. The cumulative dollar amount increases in total since FY22 to FY26 are shown above each bar by month and pay period. In addition, the cumulative increase is listed under each plan type. For instance, the enhanced plan premiums have increased by a total of $14.23 per month for the employee-only tier since the 1920 school year. And for the family tier, the total increase in premium per month in those 6 years is $91.95. The Kaiser plan was initially introduced at extremely low rates as they entered the market. Since its introduction, rate increases have exceeded that of other plans, so you will see more significant cumulative percentage increases with this plan, although in terms of the actual dollar amount, it's still the least expensive plan for our staff. So what's illustrated shows that we have increased the premiums on our self-insured plans by only 13% in total over the past 6 years. However, our health insurance costs have increased by more than 13% since 1920. To ensure competitive benefits, the division has subsidized the premiums to keep premium increases low. The Kaiser Family Foundation, which is an independent source for health policy research, shows that nationally, the most recent data I could get is for the time period 2019 to 2024, okay? Employee premiums during that time period nationally, according to the Kaiser Foundation, increased 23%. During that same 5-year time period, PWCS only increased premiums by 8% as compared to the 23% nationally. It will be important for us to monitor our health insurance expenditures moving forward and continue to study the plan design for possible changes that might help curb escalating cost while still ensuring comprehensive benefits that meet the needs of our workforce and also keep us competitive. So before turning the presentation over to Dr. McDade, I would like to take a moment and just thank the board for your continued investments in our workforce. I really appreciate the support in prioritizing the areas of most need to ensure regionally competitive pay and benefits.
Dr. Eagle, can you provide, the slides don't reflect the stats you just read about how we compare nationally on these premium increases. Can you get that information to the board and maybe put a slide together of how we, so the public can see it too? You ran through those numbers. Those are really good numbers. I think it's important for everyone to know the kind of work you all have done on our self-insured plan that the division is working on over the years. This has been a great tool and an asset, this work, has been to allow us to provide our employees with really affordable health care options. And I think it's a great, and it's instructive on being able to also free up money for us to do the other things we need to do in the core business operations.
Yes, I will.
So that would be great. Thank you. Any other questions for Dr. Eagle?
We're gonna go to the
Okay,
end.
yeah, Dr. McDade, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So as we continue through the proposed budget, we'll now move into the strategic investments. As you have seen, most of the proposed budget is dedicated to our compensation plan, and there is an additional $46.7 million designated to fund strategic investments that are aligned to our 4 key commitments. Our largest investment is in the area of learning and achievement for all, where we've budgeted $28.9 million in new investments. What you see outlined here tonight represents the highlights of some of the biggest ticket items in the budget for learning and achievement for all. First, we plan to hire 50 additional special education teacher assistants to provide individualized support for students with disabilities. Keep in mind that although our student population is projected to decrease overall, our students with special needs continues to grow. As such, we've seen an increase in our Level 2 programming. Over 3 years, we have added 300 full-time special education teaching assistant positions and 20 English learner teaching assistants. This newest investment of 50 additional special education TAs is to address those classrooms which may not have gotten the investment last year, as well as new programming based on increased special education programming demands. We aim to improve English learner student-teacher ratios to meet state requirements. As you'll recall, last year the state did reduce the ratio for the student-teacher ratio for English learners to provide more focused instruction. And so you'll see the breakout here. The previous state requirement was a 1:37 ratio. The EL teacher-to-student ratio per the state's requirements are now for Level 1 students 1:20, Level 2 students 1:30, Level 3 students 1:40, Level 4 1:50, and Level 5 1:100, whereas before the ratio was not based on the student's level, but just a general flat 1:37. This new state requirement, we believe, will be extremely beneficial in prioritizing the needs of our students, particularly our Level 1 and Level 2 students. So this investment of 39.3 FTEs allows us to meet the new state minimums and ensure that EL students receive targeted language support, enhancing their academic success and overall confidence. We plan to hire 15 additional behavior specialists to support positive student behaviors, intervention strategies, and classroom management. You will recall that we were invested in 3 graduation coaches post-budget cycle to support schools with the highest dropout rates, particularly dropouts for English learners, and the respective schools did experience marked success. And so we are adding an additional 5 that'll bring our total to 8 graduation coaches to provide direct mentorship and guidance to students at risk of not graduating. These professionals will help students stay on track, navigate challenges, and achieve post-secondary success. We have also budgeted for 5 additional school psychologists to expand access to mental health services, helping students navigate emotional and behavioral challenges. Furthermore, we are adding 5 kindergarten teacher assistants to strengthen foundational learning experiences for our youngest learners, as we made a commitment to ensure that every kindergarten classroom is staffed with a teaching assistant. Over 3 years, we've added 111 full-time kindergarten teaching assistant positions. This ensures early intervention and small group support, setting students up for long-term academic success. Each of these new investments underscores the district's focus on targeted, student-centered investments that enhance learning experiences, improve academic outcomes, and prioritize student well-being. Moving on to positive climate and culture. The commitment to fostering a positive climate and culture ranks as the 2nd highest funded priority in our fiscal year 26 budget. We're making an investment to enhance our student experience, ensuring our schools are places where students feel supported, valued, and ready to thrive. We are adding a dean of students in each of our middle and high schools. This is not an unusual investment as we do have neighboring school divisions that currently have a dean of students. The Dean of Students is a school-based position that will support administration at the local school level in maintaining fidelity and consistency across the school system in the implementation and enforcement of the Code of Behavior. They will also be responsible for investigations and reporting discipline infractions to ensure fairness across all schools. Last year, when Ms. Huebner presented the Code of Behavior, there was lengthy discussion by the school board around PWCS making sure that we are implementing the Code of Behavior with fidelity, as well as ensuring fairness across the board and norming our practices. And we've been doing a lot of work around that, including audits and training. And through that, we found areas of improvement that are needed. And we believe that this investment will help shore up the practices that are happening across schools, because what we're seeing is that administration is stretched thin and there are multiple people handling infractions, which is where you get the inconsistency. So that's where the addition of this position came from. We're also planning to make additional investments in the PWCS VCU Apprentice Program, where we are developing future teachers, giving them hands-on experience while addressing the national teaching shortages. Additionally, we are adding 3 social workers and security assistants and investing in training for classified staff and alternative pathways for teacher licensure. As you can see, we are making strategic investments to strengthen student support, expand opportunities, and build a positive climate of culture where every student has the resources they need to be successful. Moving into family and community engagement, we are investing to enhance communication and engagement with our families, ensuring they have access to the information and support they need. You'll note that the investment here is much smaller. That is because in our strategic plan, we have met our goal for family and community engagement. We are still making investments, but we've invested to the tune of $8.3 million over the past 3 years, and you'll see on the screen provided the breakdown of year 1, 2, and 3. This includes our investment in more than 100 full-time parent liaison positions across all schools and a significant investment in our Global Welcome Center renovation as a part of our CIP, accomplishing our goal of every school having a parent liaison and creating a warm environment with our Global Welcome Center with additional resources and support for parents. As part of this year's strategic investment, PwC is adding a transportation liaison to help families navigate transportation concerns, provide clear communication, and improve coordination between schools and transportation services. And then for improved communication, we are investing in a website customer service chatbot, which many corporations and organizations have that feature, so that families do not have to search the web for information, but can get quick and ready information through our chatbot. To address real-time support when our customers have questions about school services, policies, or resources. We know when families feel connected, informed, and supported, students succeed, and these investments make communication easier, resolve concerns faster, and strengthen trust between our schools and our community. And finally, our 4th commitment is organizational coherence, and we are highlighting $8.2 million in new investments. It is important to note that included in organizational coherence are the proposed compensation investments that Dr. Eagle reviewed earlier in tonight's presentation, because these adjustments are crucial for attracting and retaining high-quality educators and ensuring the overall effectiveness and efficiency of our school system. And if you review our strategic plan in organizational coherence, we specifically set a goal and commitment for competitive wages and benefits. And so that commitment that we are making on the $83 million in compensation speaks directly to the priority in organizational coherence. The substantive investments that we've made over the last 4 budget years to increase competitiveness in the job market include, but not limited to, we've boosted entry pay by 21.6%. We've increased mid-career teacher pay by 40.4%. We've adjusted salary scale to match each year of experience. We've equalized step progression, giving equitable raises for teachers with 1 to 5 years and veterans. We've raised salary cap from 17 to 26 years for the 25-26 school year to attract experienced teachers. We've increased summer school pay to staff members' hourly rate for our certified staff. We've ensured fully paid paternal leave and provided short-term disability for all benefits-eligible staff. And this year, we will be working to improve our administrator scale with specific attention to our elementary principals and assistant principals to ensure we remain competitive with this employee group as well. Additionally, in organizational coherence, we are allocating funding for 20 new school bus attendants so that we can provide an improved experience for students to arrive at school and return home safely each day. We are also investing in 5 new car and van drivers to help address transportation needs, increasing flexibility and reliability for students who require alternative transportation services. And I'm pleased to announce our commitment to the Growing Our Own Educators Pipeline through the establishment of the PWCS Student Teacher Program. This initiative will enable us to cultivate and retain future educators by offering on-site training, experience, and coaching. Our goal is to continue attracting and retaining top talent and exemplary leaders, ensuring that our students receive the highest quality education they deserve. By focusing on ensuring competitive wages for our valued employees, safe and reliable transportation, strengthening our teacher pipeline, and improving operational efficiency, we are creating a more effective, responsive, and student-centered school system. At this time, I would like to invite Mr. Youssef back to the podium to provide a summary of all changes to the SY26 budget.
Thank you, Dr. McDade. The next chart that we look at basically brings together what we've talked about. We have given you the changes in the revenues in details and also the change in compensation, debt service. One thing I would like to highlight is if you look, there's the school repairs and renewals. This is basically our cash to capital. And just yesterday, the Board of County Supervisors approved a $32 million true-up, which we plan to utilize to our cash to capital. And this helps us reduce our bond program and bond sales. Moving on to our capital improvement program. The chart shows a 5-year capital improvement program categorized by funding source and the type of improvement. This comprehensive plan estimates $1.1 billion approximately, which includes bond funding of $938 million over the next 5 years, $135 million from general fund transfers, and $25 million from profits. These profits are available to us at the county, and there is a lot of flexibility in terms of our use for those profits. At this point, I would like to ask our Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Vern Bach, to talk about the plan in a little bit more detail.
Thank you, Mr. Youssef, and good evening, Chairman Lateef, board members, and Dr. McDade. First, I'd like to thank our facilities team and our budget team for the very robust collaboration in developing the comprehensive CIP, or capital improvement program, that we proposed to you in the work session back in January. I think I'll just add a few comments here. In reference to the slide, just a distinction, I think, between renovation and facilities modifications. Both of those are enhancements and aim to improve our buildings, but modifications typically involve changes to the structure of the building that would accommodate maybe additional programming or adding classrooms to really accommodate increasing enrollment trends. A renovation obviously is the modernization of a building and really bringing that building up to speed with local standards, to enhance flooring, the structure of the building and HVAC systems. So I just wanted to point out that slight distinction there. And also, I just want to make mention too, and I want to thank the board and the major investment in deferred maintenance. We've had a lot of deferred maintenance over the years in the division, and there's a major investment in the CIP, most notably in HVAC, about $150 million of investment towards deferred maintenance of HVAC. And this investment will prioritize the climate and comfort in the building for our students and our staff, and in doing so will also prolong the life expectancy of our equipment. And finally, I'd just like to thank the board for your continued investment in our facilities and providing some of the most state-of-the-art and best school facilities for our students and staff. So thank you.
And just to round out the discussion on CIP, When we have increases in CIP, it is to be paid or to be spent over a 5-year, sometimes even longer period. So these are multi-year projects, and we do have increased carryovers from year to year. In 2024, we had a $500 million budget. That was an appropriation. Authority to spend. We deferred the 14th high school. And therefore, we had a significantly large unencumbered balance. As these projects come on board, they'll be utilized, and the requirement to ask for unencumbered balance carryover is going to be reduced. Projected debt sales in the next few years, bond sales will rise, then drop significantly in FY 2030 as we ramp up, again, our major construction, renovation, and maintenance, and the investments we have in HVAC. We will need to obviously sell more bonds to pay for this. So we anticipate this to be an increase in the next few years before we start reducing our bond sales. Finally, the fiscal year 2026 budget timeline. We're presenting the proposed budget and CIP today. There is a public meeting on February 10th. Then on February 18th, the county executive will present the Prince William County Prince William County budget to the BOCS. And then on February 19th, we have a public hearing. In March, we have our March 12th budget work session and markup. March 19 being the date scheduled for school board approval of the budget and CIP. The budget is then presented to the BOCS on April 1st, and we anticipate by April 22, the BOCS will approve the budget. And again, I would like to thank the school board for all the support in terms of funding, and I will turn over the discussion to Dr. McDade.
Thank you, Mr. Youssef. This comprehensive review of the proposed fiscal year 26 budget really underscores our unwavering commitment to investing in the future of our students, staff, and community. By aligning our financial resources with our strategic priorities, we are ensuring that every student thrives in an inclusive, supportive, and academically challenging environment. We value the input and collaboration from all stakeholders, specifically our school board members, who have been an integral part of budget development. As we move forward, we remain dedicated to transparency, fiscal responsibility, and continuous improvement. Together, we will create a thriving future for Prince William County Schools. Mr. Chairman, this concludes the presentation of the fiscal year 26 superintendent's proposed budget, and we welcome any questions that the school members may have. I have my entire executive cabinet here, so this is the team that works with me to ensure that our budget is meeting the needs of all students, and so we're prepared to take on any questions that you might have.
Ms. Zargarpur.
Thank you, Dr. Lateef. Appreciate all of the time and effort you have all taken, not just tonight, but in our 2x2s. So, we're all laughing up here. I'm thinking back to when I first started serving on this board, where we were looking at, we were adding more teacher assistants, we were adding more counselors, school counselors, and things like that. And I know our ratios are better than they have been in the past. I'm looking at, the audience can't see, we have a sheet of other stuff here, and I'm looking on here, and it says that we have 4 added positions for counselors in several high schools. Were those high schools, those were identified as they needed? Okay, so where are we in our ratios, like at all the levels?
Mm-hmm. So right now, the VDOE required ratios are 1 to 325. And so for elementary, we're at 1 to 325, so we're meeting that. We're beating the recommendation at the middle school, we're at 1 to 278. And then for high school, we're at 1 to 300. Now, all 3 of those are below the ASCA recommendations, which is 1 to 250 across all levels, but we are not only in compliance, but actually below the recommended ratio for VDOE.
Okay, but the other thing I wanted to just sort of find out, we've got graduation coaches now going into all of our schools, which will hopefully take a little bit of work off of our counselors in high school, I would imagine.
Well, they work collaboratively with the
Right.
counselors, but with the graduation coaches, there's a heavy focus on dropout prevention.
Right, okay.
So yes, that is a huge support in working with the counselors so that there's targeted support for those students and that no one gets kind of left behind.
Right, and I think that's awesome. I know that the three that we already have made a
Positive
outstanding effort in moving those graduation rates. And then we've also got the dean of students. And I'm going to presume that will also help support some of the counseling as well, because you're talking about maybe the
Well, what it'll do is, right now, as I stated earlier, there's kind of like everyone on the admin team is trying to support with discipline investigations, et cetera. And having the dean certainly will ensure that we protect more time towards the instructional core, as well as protecting time for counselors to do counseling work. And so that's why that position will be a huge relief to school teams.
Yeah, I like that we've got a couple different ways that we can approach buckets of different kinds of issues so that it doesn't always wind up in the same place. So I will take a look at more. That was just one of the things that kind of floated up because we've talked about reducing the ratios, and I know that we don't have necessarily 900 graduates waiting in line for it's all of it is a challenge. But I'm hopeful that these things will also help reduce some of the workload and help our students get the best education that they deserve. So thank you.
Who's next? Erica Tredenick.
The first and last name, got it. I have a couple of questions. First of all, I do love that our middle school and high school are receiving dean of students to help with the discipline. I appreciate that after some of my commentary last year, and I feel like that's so needed and will hopefully help to address some of the differences. I also love that our teachers are being compensated and receiving a much-deserved raise, as well as our classified and admin. Can you explain what our behavior specialists do and what department they fall under?
Our behavior specialists are under the Office of Special Education, and I'll have Dr. Reyher come and share a little bit about their roles and responsibilities and how the addition of these 15 behavior specialists will directly support schools.
Good evening. So the role of the behavior specialist, those positions fall under our Department of Tiered Interventions and Supports. And so those staff are deployed out to schools. They currently have a caseload of around 7 schools each, and they consult on cases. They might work with teachers on strategies to put in place when a student's having behaviors. They oftentimes are very involved and hands-on in leading the behavioral intervention plan process. A lot of those plans, as you know, are developed for students who are served in our programs for students with autism, students with emotional disabilities. And so these additional positions will not only lower the caseload for all behavior specialists, but it will allow for more targeted assignment of behavior specialists to schools where we either have a high volume of special education programs or we have a lot of students who need supports and staff who are just looking for that additional level of expertise.
Thank you. And I don't know if this is a question you'll answer or someone else, but as far as our social workers, one of the things that was brought up to my attention and that I looked into a little bit was, will one of the social workers be dedicated to McKinney-Vento? And can you explain what that is?
Yeah. So the McKinney-Vento program is the program that is supporting our students that may have been identified as homeless. And to answer your question directly, the 3 social workers that are added are not identified for dedicated solely support to McKinney-Vento. We do have social work support, but they don't have a person that is strictly designated for that program.
Thank you.
Ms. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to thank the superintendent and the budget staff, as well as the facility staff, for putting together a really good proposed budget. I know it takes a lot of time, and I can tell from this budget that you have listened to not only what the public has said, but also each of us up here on the board. And I really appreciate that, being having been a board member for a long time, not having to get to work session to add what we want, but having it already in there, because not only do you listen to us when we propose our changes upcoming, but all throughout the year, and it's reflected. I did want to find out a little bit more about how the Dean of Students fits into the school, because I know that's going to be a question a lot of the public will ask. Is it like maybe you can explain it in a way, is it a principal level position or like a counselor?
It is.
I think
It's a
there's lot of-
school-based position. So the position lives at the local school and reports to the principal.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you. Because I was not familiar, so I know if I am curious, I'm sure other people will be curious as well. I appreciate having that position and having discipline be operated with fidelity in the code of behavior, because I know that that's been an ongoing problem, at least as long as I've been a board member. I do want to congratulate our division and Donna Eagle on maintaining our insurance rates so low. I've been working in corporate America for 20 plus years. I have never seen the ability to keep it so low. I think that's commendable. I know that's a lot of hard work and meetings and negotiations with our insurance companies, and I think that is commendable, especially over the period of time. Myself, I've experienced a minimum of a 10 to 12% increase in insurance rates, so absolutely phenomenal. Mr. Youssef, I appreciate you explaining the carryover rates. I don't know where'd you go. There you are. I'm short. I can't see above the sign. I know that that's something that has come up not only at the Board of County Supervisor meetings when budgets are discussed, but it's helpful for the public to understand why we have that carryover and why we can't spend it, because it's not just funds that we're not using. It is already allotted funds, and because the number is so large, it often, I think, gets confused with why aren't we just not using that money, and it's important to educate our public. The last thing I wanted to know is if you could speak a little bit about proffers. Every area generally asks this question and what they are, because just as a general reminder, I know that the school division is not an entity that asks for proffers, but if you could just explain a little bit, a high-level overview about what that is and how it affects our budget or we utilize it.
So as we built our CIP, we do know that we have certain proffers that were made for schools, and there's a lot of flexibility in terms of how these proffers can be used. You know, it's not specific to a district or a region within the county. And so we felt, for the sake of transparency, to disclose what is out there and available to us. And typically, we will make an application to the county, and they will look at it and determine, and then will provide us those funds. Now, there have been some legislative changes in proffers, so it's become more difficult for counties to ask or require proffers from developers as the law has changed, but we still have available source of revenue that we intend to use.
Thank you. That's all I have at this time. If I have any more questions, I'll be sure to email.
I'll go to Mr. Jesse, then Mr.
I have a question on the federal portion that we're going to supposed to receive 2.7 or about 48 million. What's the possibility that we don't get that, and what's our plans?
So that's a good question. I cannot speculate on the possibility of what happens with daily changes and with the new administration in place. In terms of us, if we do lose that funding, it does affect, in many ways, some of our biggest title grants, like Title 6B, which is our students with special needs, and also Title I for our high poverty schools or Title I schools. However, with that 48 million, it would require us to look for that type of money, and some of it may have to come from fund balance in the short term. But in the long term, we'd have to look at talking to our county and the state to see if there's a total loss of this funding. So anything right now is very speculative in terms of what's happening, but we continue to monitor this.
And I do want to add that, just because, I know that this is a source of concern for our school communities and staff. So I do want to add that we were publicly notified that it will not impact schools' programming. So we don't have a reason to believe that any of our current funding, federal funding for, Head Start and our title programs are in any kind of jeopardy. So I just want to reassure our school communities that, the recent freeze in federal funding that was announced, there was a follow-up that it would not impact our actual school programs. So we will be able to continue to execute our programs without any interruption throughout this school year.
Thank you. One other question I had is the Dean of Students, that's for middle and high school. I think we have 14 middle schools and 13 high schools. So my question is, the high schools are much bigger. So do we need more than one dean of students in the high school?
That will be something that we would have to, first collect data on to determine if that were the case. But right now, the data that we're seeing in terms of the number of infractions and the amount of staff that you have at a high school compared to a middle school, one would be sufficient for both middle and high.
Ms. Wall.
Thank you, Dr. Lateef. On the Dean of Students, since we were on that topic, the stated purpose was to create fidelity and consistency and enforcement with the code of behavior investigations, making sure fairness in that process. Are we also hoping that we will see an improvement in student behavior with the Dean of Students as far as like a reduction in infractions? Is that going to be a part of the role as well?
I can't say that position is, designated to reduce incidents. It's more so to ensure that we are appropriately responding to the incidents that are occurring in our schools, right? It's ensuring that we don't have situations where the same type of infraction with the same code happening in one school gets a different consequence than what happens in another school, right? So it's more around norming practices, ensuring accuracy of reporting, fidelity in the investigation process, because there just needs to be, school staff is stretched so thin that there needs to be someone who can be the in-house expert for all things code of behavior. As it stands, it's challenging for our admin teams to, be able to address core instruction and do all of the roles and responsibilities there, as well as try to investigate and be an expert in the code of behavior. And that's why sometimes you see some inconsistencies, because you have multiple people that are handling behavior in a school. So it's the same way you have, a director of school counseling that works with the entire counseling suite, or a director that's overseeing mathematics to ensure that there's common practices and collaboration. The dean of students can address all things that are related to the code of behavior, but their primary function wouldn't be to, yes, they'll be responding to behaviors, but not necessarily the end-all be-all to end or improve student behaviors. That'll be continued work that happens through social work services, counseling services, and other individuals that are trusted adults that are working one-on-one with students, behavioral specialists. So we have a multitude of people who are working to improve climate and culture in a school, but we don't have right now dedicated in our secondary schools is someone who is clearly the person that is having oversight of all things discipline.
Okay, thank you. That's good clarification. I also think that I imagine our principals and our assistant principals would really appreciate this person, allowing the principal to, at least I envision this based on what you said, be more of that instructional leader to focus on what's happening in the classroom and less on what is happening with these, following up the discipline process after a behavior has occurred?
Absolutely. You think about the size of a middle and high school, it's really taxing to have to try to keep up with all the reporting. Did the investigation go the way that it was supposed to go? And, following up with multiple people. And the level associates are here, and the investments that you see that are going directly into schools come from the voice of our school leaders. Our level associates do work with the principals to hear from them, what do you need to see in this budget? And as they've been working, Ms. Porter Lucas has been working along with Dr. Atkins and Ms. Hebner to norm practices across the school system as it relates to the code of behavior. And I personally consulted with some of our leaders, our principals in the system about adding a dean of students. And I'll tell you, I didn't find one that said, oh no, I don't need that. You can keep the position, right? They all want to be able to focus on instruction. They want to move the needle on academic outcomes, but they also need to have help carrying the burden of addressing student behaviors in the school. And it is something that needs attention, and we believe that this position will go a long way in providing the necessary attention.
Thank you for that. I believe, it'll be exciting to see the results, how that affects how we operate in our schools, and hopefully will make a big difference for our students. I had a question really quick. The flex funding category, I must have missed it. When it says flex funding on this long, big sheet, what does that mean, and how is that different from, is it just identifying a particular funding source?
So typically, as we add programs, flex funding is basically logistics. It's your materials, supplies, that's what it is. And it depends on what program and where we're adding it. So if we add a position, there is an amount of flex funding. The person will need office equipment, supplies, et cetera.
Okay, thank you. On the topic of compensation, I very much appreciate the efforts of staff to work on this problem, because I know it has been an ongoing problem in Prince William County, and I know a lot of careful thought went into it. I understand that these large salary increases are historic, and it's been over the last 4 or 5 years, and the numbers, the percentages and the numbers are pretty impressive. I just want to caution that it's probably not sustainable into the future to continue to see these very large increases year upon year upon year. I mean, maybe it is, but it just seems like this is a good time to right size while we do have these funds. And then moving forward, we'll probably need to get to a place where we just have regular, predictable increases.
That's right. So, I mean, the goal, we were lagging in the market. And so the goal was, that we identified in this strategic plan is, while we can, to get us to the place where we are competing with our peers or surpassing them in some respects. And then just like we expect that in the out years, the funding will not be coming in, as significant as it has in the past, for us, it won't be for our neighbors either. So, once we kind of get on level ground, we'll probably be pacing at the same rate. And we'll be able to stay in line in competition. So although we don't expect that, and Mr. Youssef reminds us of this every day he can, that we won't necessarily have the same kind of increases in investments that we've had in the past years, we'll be able to at least remain competitive, because we're expecting that our neighboring districts will experience the same kind of decreases that we will in terms of the funding source.
Okay, that's kind of what I'm expecting too, but I do appreciate the surge, the salary surge. On the topic of deductibles, I do think that I've never had an insurance plan that had no deductible, and I personally think it's awesome having a couple of family members with chronic illnesses where you have to go to the doctor. It's not like you just choose to go to the doctor to investigate something. So in those cases, it's been very helpful to have that. Saved thousands of dollars just by being able to take advantage of the health insurance benefits without having to meet a $5,000, $6,000 deductible. But for what it's worth, that's my input. I really think it's amazing. It really is amazing. But I do understand, the rationale for why nobody else is doing it.
And I think it is important to call this out, and I know that this is something that Dr. Eagle continues to remind us of. Like we just discussed, that we've made these increases to compensation because we have been able to, and at some point, we will have to slow this down to be fiscally responsible. The same thing holds true for our insurance, right? So we've enjoyed, lower increased percentages. We've enjoyed not having a deductible, but it is going to catch up to us. And so there will be a time where we will no longer be able to maintain, these low rates and increases. And so, which is why it's such a good thing that over the years we've been able to do this, so that if we do have to make any changes, they shouldn't have to be so significant to be absorbed by the employee.
That's true, I appreciate that. It's always good to have the fiscal, what word am I looking for? A fiscal eye on what we're doing, being conservative with the taxpayer money, knowing that those are hard-earned dollars, and we need to prioritize them. And I look forward, I'm going to just wrap up my comments by saying I look forward to hopefully seeing these investments flow into higher student achievement, higher abilities, higher passing rates, graduation rates, kids who can read at, appropriate levels, all of those things, because at the end of the day, the budget should support the academic progress of our students. And I've seen good things in past years as we've pushed forward towards our goals. And at the end of the day, that's what the purpose of the budget is to see that progress reflected in how our students are doing and in launching their thriving futures. So thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Mr. Wilk.
Okay, quick, with brevity to truncate the length of this meeting here. I appreciate Dr. Eagle explaining to me some of the misconception about how the increase in health costs are offsetting the raises, which we're talking totally different numbers there. So I appreciate that, as those percentages don't have the same weight with one another. The Dean of Students, it's been echoed up here a number of times. I think it's a great move. I do believe it's the importance of consistency in the implementation. Sure, I'd like punishments to be stricter, but I think heading in the right direction of making sure it is consistent across the board, and that one building isn't doing one thing for a level blank infraction versus this other building, and let alone, like you said, with the almost just the sheer amount of work that our administrators have to do in the building, it is possible that APs could have different, decisions on the discipline that they administer. So thank you for that. I think that's very important. And then the other thing I just wanted to, I don't need the numbers on the spot, but, Lisa and I both being, well, Lisa's still a teacher, and a former teacher years ago, thinking of my student teaching experience, I think it's really important and critical to have that pipeline of teachers. I think that's one of the major benefits of having a student-teacher program, and try to amplify what we have as a future workforce. I would just be curious to see each year how many and what levels they're at, and kind of see what trends we have with that too, if it kind of replicates what we're seeing on the job market as well with teaching jobs. But that's all I have to say.
Yeah, we can even provide that data at markup, because that's something that we do track.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Blake.
I just want to thank you guys for presenting this budget and taking the time and listening to the community, the administration, and the board. And I too am excited about these Dean of Students. I think that's going to do good things and free up space for our administrators to handle our core business, which is education. So I just wanted to thank you. That's it.
Great, Mr. Blake. Some questions, not just a couple more, and maybe some comments. On enrollment, if we go back to the beginning, Mr. Youssef, Dr. McDade, whoever would like to answer that. I mean, as I look at what concerns me, and while we're talking about federal dollars and all that stuff, I think it's also important, I'm glad you reminded the public that many of the federal dollars, so I guess this question first, many of the federal dollars that we receive is by statute law. even if you close the Department of Education, we still have to get that money, whether it's delivered by Department of Agriculture or Labor, correct?
I think that is correct. I'm not a legal expert, but these are titles under the Education Act, the Federal Education Act, that we are entitled to these monies.
Yeah.
How it manifests itself is a different matter. But we are still entitled to these for these federal programs.
So is that correct, Mr. Anderson? If they shut down Department of Education, these dollars have been dedicated to schools by prior law, or current law, or law that's unrelated to whether a DOE exists or not. Is that correct?
I don't know the answer to
I
that.
see. Okay. Yeah, okay. Well,
I like to research before I give an answer. about
Okay,
that.
fair enough. Fair enough. Okay. On enrollment, so I believe as I look at the budget overall, and I think it's important for the community, and as Dr. McDade has pointed out, Dr. McDade, you can answer this. To me, the biggest risk posed to this division moving forward in the next 5 to 10 years is this risk of enrollment drop. Is that correct? And so, you know, while this is a great budget, and I've been chair almost, I don't know where I'm going in my 8th year, we've overseen a lot of great budgets, and the division has grown and able to catch up in many areas. But as Ms. Wall points out, you know, dollars coming in are going to be less, and then enrollment will impact the dollars we receive. Is that correct?
Yes, so in terms of our state aid, it is based on our average daily membership count, but there's also the local composite index, which is going to be resetting in the next biennium. So those could all have an impact on the state funds, and then in terms of how we apply those funds. But in terms of revenue coming in, the average daily membership is one of the current basis for the state to fund us. And, you know, unless they come up with a new funding formula, there's been talk at the BDOE about that. That does impact revenues from the state.
And so just looking at your chart, we could be down 4,000 more students, 4,000 to 5,000 more over the next 4 or 5 years. I mean, that's the size of a couple schools.
Correct.
Yeah. And so I think it's important for the public to be aware that, you know, we are facing some significant challenges if these projections pan out. And I think that's really important. And so as we look at how we spend our money, I appreciate the eye on these major risks that the division face. I'm grateful for the audit committee, Jen Wall's eye on audit risk and some of the risks that we face. Otherwise, I think that's important. And so and I'm glad you guys have looked at that and focused on that in the budget. Regarding the English learner additional positions, are we adding them, Dr. McDade? We're adding them because we need them, but are we adding them solely because the state's requiring us to hit those ratios, or were we planning on doing that anyways? I think it's a mix of that.
Well, I mean, we
Yeah.
we need the money, so we couldn't plan
Yeah,
to
I
do
see.
it without it. And so the state providing the money
Providing the money.
allowed us.
They are
Yeah, we
providing the
would've-
money.
You let Dr. Sullivan do
Yeah.
it, she would reduce it even lower.
Yeah.
So,
Fair enough, yeah.
She definitely was leaping with joy when the state came through with the
Okay.
with the reduction. But specifically, we were only able to do it because the state provided those funds. And if they didn't, we would not have been able to reduce the ratio the way that we would have liked to.
Okay, so fantastic. So anyways, that's great. And do we expect moving forward they'll provide increases to that? Or is this a one-time baseline adjustment, and any new ELs will have to be on us, or will the state, did they put anything in there about increasing it each year over year?
So as earlier on, it depends on, so it is part of the state budget now in commitment unless they curtail that. And they had given us a 2-year period to catch up, so we expect continued funding. But again, everything flows in, as you look at the state calc sheets that they provide, the average daily membership does affect what we get.
So for those positions, is it the average daily membership of English learning students? Because, as you point out in our slides, that's one of our fastest growing populations. So
It's based on the ratio that Dr. McDade described by levels.
okay.
And
I
then
see.
we have to be able to show the state that we are complying with it.
But I think what Dr. Lateef, which I think this is important to call out, that I think you're noting
Yeah.
here is, even though our average daily is going down in terms of enrollment, our average daily membership is going down, the number of English learner students is going up, right? Both things can be true.
Yes.
And so, when you see that we're adding 39 positions or we're adding 50 TAs, although we're projected to lose students, that loss of students does not equate to a decrease in English learner students. We're seeing the opposite effect, that the students that are coming in are more and more being identified as either English learners, students with special needs, or economically disadvantaged, which is why we extrapolated those three subgroups and showed that in the presentation, because it is a direct alignment to the investments that we're making, right? So you can have a school system that is losing enrollment year over year, yet the needs of the population that is being served is increasing, and then the investments have to match that need.
Yeah.
So I think that's important, because sometimes the public may see that, oh, you're projecting a decrease of 2,600 students, yet you're adding 39 positions. Well, those 39 positions are specifically to support English learner students, and we're seeing a continued growth year over year in the students that are identified as English learners.
And I don't know if we do this, maybe I should know this, but when we say our projections are going down, do we have a subset of projections? Of what's going to happen with the English learner population, what's going to happen with the students with disabilities? Do we say, currently we have this many numbers, but over the next 3 years, those are actually going to go up? Or, the percentage goes up, obviously, right? So we know the percentage goes up, but do we project the actual number? Do we know that?
That's not something that you can project. You can't project who's going to qualify for special education services, right? That's on year by year, need by need basis. So we never know from year to year what that number of students with special needs is going to be. You can't, there's no way for you to predict that. Same thing holds true for our English learners. As you have students that are enrolling in the system, you never know. We can predict what our enrollment is going to be, right? What our projected enrollment is going to be, but we can't tell you what the subgroup percentage is going to be.
Is there any science around that, or is there any thought to doing that? Because that also poses a big risk, for us in the face of decreasing enrollment. The cost of the students that we are getting is going up.
The cost to educate the current population we have is going up, even though the enrollment is decreasing. But there is absolutely no way to project the percentage of students that will be requiring special education services or requiring English language services until the students are enrolled and we identify that need is there.
Okay. This, just a quick question. I don't need the answer tonight. What is just to remind me and the public, what our current counseling ratios are at each grade level, at the sort of elementary, middle, and high, what the ideal counseling ratio is. And I know we added a few counselors here in the budget, maybe not enough to move the needle on that ratio, but I'd love to know what would it cost the division to get us to the 250 to 1 at the high school level, which was where I remember from last year the only place we were lagging. I think elementary and middle, we hit the ratios properly.
Ms. Zargarpur did ask this question, and I shared where we are today with our ratios. The VDOE required ratio is 1 to 325 across the board, all levels. PWCS is meeting that ratio at elementary school at 1 to 325. We're below that at 1 to 278, so we're faring better in middle school than the required VDOE ratio. And then at high school, we're at 1 to 300. And according to ASCA, it's a 1 to 250, as you stated. We have not calculated what it would cost for us financially to get to the 1 to 250. So that's something that we could bring back the cost to you, at markup. But I will caution, though, to make that kind of sizable investment in a single year, I would anticipate that we would be sitting with vacancies for quite some time.
Sure.
Because it would be very, very challenging to fill those vacancies. And so we can fund the FTE, but then to have a school sit with a vacancy for the full school year, that's funding that could have been going to something
Sure,
else.
sure,
So,
sure.
I mean, just putting that out there as a point of consideration, but we definitely at markup can bring to you the full cost of what
Yeah.
it would be to fund at a 1 to 250 ratio
Yeah, I
across
mean,
the board.
I mean, I don't know if it's as simple as one counselor per high school. That might seem easy to fill, but if it's, I don't know if it's 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know
It would
the
be more
answer.
than that, and I don't
Yeah.
want to,
Sure.
throw any
Let's-
numbers
let's
out because
look at
we
the
haven't
numbers.
done it.
Yeah.
So we'll do our due diligence to determine the number of counselors that would be needed, as well as what the financial cost would be. And then also keep it in mind for the full board that, we are in a shortage right now, and counselors is a critical shortage. So it would be incredibly challenging for
Yeah,
us
to
to
fill
fill a
those
significant
positions
number of
otherwise,
positions,
right.
even if we had the dollars to be able to fund it.
Fair enough, fair enough. Okay, great. Well, I look forward to seeing those numbers. I really would like those numbers. I mean, I think we're hitting the numbers already at the elementary and middle level. I mean,
We're
our
not at-
targets.
If you're looking for us to meet the American School Counseling Association recommendation of 1 to 250, no, we are not hitting.
Is that only for high school, or do they say that's for
across
elementary?
the board.
That's across the board.
That's across the
Got it.
board. The closest
I
that we're
see.
coming is at middle school, which is at 1 to 278.
Okay.
But high school is 1 to 300, and elementary right now, and PWCS is 1 to 325, all three of which are below the VDOE recommendations,
Okay.
but do not hit the
Got
ASCA recommendation.
Okay, great, thank you. Dean of Students, everyone's comment on that, I think it's great. I think, Dr. McDade, as you've always done with all of the work we do, I would love to see some metrics around how we determine whether those positions become effective. So is it the kinds of things that it frees up more time for our APs to go and do more evaluating teacher performance, working with teachers, instructional, working on that sort of instructional leadership kind of stuff? Is it that we're I don't know, what are the kinds of metrics we would say these positions are, how do we monitor the success of that work? There'll be a subjective aspect to it, but are there objective metrics? You don't have to answer that now, but those are the kinds of things. As we roll out new programs, I always appreciate that.
Absolutely, and we are actually prepared, though, for that, because that's the work that I mentioned earlier that Ms. Porter Lucas and Dr. Atkins and Ms. Hebner are already doing. They're already doing the audits. They're capturing data in terms of consistency of implementation, and so we will be able to compare where we are. We have now baseline data for the first time, and so we'll be able to compare that to where we are after a year of having the Dean of Students on staff, even down to Dr. Atkins' office monitoring reporting and the quality of the reporting that's coming through. We'll be able to have both qualitative and quantitative data as a baseline this year that we can then compare year over year to see if the Dean of Student position is making an impact in the areas of improvement that the team has identified.
Outstanding. That's great. I think this is my really second last question. Mr. Youssef, you had mentioned, and I think I missed it when you got this slide, you talked about cash to capital, 30 million. Did I miss something? What was that?
So yesterday at the Board of Supervisors meeting, there was a resolution. Once our audits are completed, the BOCS looks at their revenue, actual revenue, and they do an exercise called true-up, which is what the true-up of the revenue is, and we got 32 million or 31 million rounded up in terms of extra cash. And because this is...
That's for this fiscal year.
It's based on...
The true-up on this fiscal year, right?
No, it's on FY '24. Fiscal year '24 just
Right now.
No, we're in fiscal year '25.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah, okay. So it's what they owe us from.
Right. And so typically with those things, because there's a non-recurring nature to that, we apply it to one-time projects. And with the increases we have in our CIP, we have allocated it in our budget for the general fund transfer to CIP construction.
Okay, to current construction?
Yes.
Okay, all right, fine. So I guess then the question I had is, the projected increase that the county share of our revenue will be this year remains the same. There hasn't been a change to that. So,
No, we
what we
want-
expect from the county, oh, yeah, go ahead.
So in terms of the fiscal year '25, the year is not complete, the collections are not complete.
Yeah.
And so we will not know that possibly until next fiscal year sometime, once the audit is over. And, based on conversations with county staff, they feel that this is something that is going to decrease time over time as the county tightens up its projections. So that remains to be seen what we get for FY '25.
So, Mr. Youssef, on the county budget, forecasted increase, real estate personal property tax you have here on slide 14, increase of 54.8 million, so 6.1% increase. Is that a firm number?
That is based on the 5-year
Yeah.
plan, which we go by. Every budget we proposed is based on that, because we don't have the advertised rates for this particular year. And as I mentioned earlier on, when the county's executive proposes, we'll get some indication of where they're going, and it all depends on what they do in terms of tax rates and if they lower the tax rates. And so two factors there. There's the growth in your values and your tax rates, and if they lower the tax rate. But of their 5-year projections that we looked at, this was the more conservative projection.
So it's unlikely to be lower than this, but it could be higher?
It is unlikely to be lower than this, but I would caveat that if the board Board of County Supervisors decides to cut the tax rate, it could have an impact.
Okay. All right, that's all I have. Just kudos on the premiums. I would remind the public that, Dr. Eagle, maybe you can remind me, we had 3 or 4 years in a row where we didn't increase the premium at all. Is that correct? Okay. So on top of the fact that I feel like just either last year or 2 years ago was the first year we had increased the premium after quite a while. Yeah. You want to tell that to the microphone? What? No, but she didn't say it on. Well, yeah, but I want how many years though we didn't do the premium? Do you remember that?
Well, my history began with PWCS in 2018.
Yeah.
And so we did not increase premiums in the 18-19 school year, the 19-20 school year, and the 20-21 school year. Now, it could have been prior to that as well, but I don't have the lived experience to comment on that without doing some research.
So it's at least 4 years where we didn't increase the premium.
At least 3 years that I'm aware of, but it could have been more. Yes.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. Well, I appreciate that. That's very good. And then without the no change in the no deductible is outstanding. Okay. Now I'll go to Mr. Jesse.
We had this discussion about the funding for the special eds or classes. One thing that we're not talking about is the impact on facilities. These smaller classrooms are going to impact our facilities in schools that are currently crowded. So that's the issue that we have to deal with, I think.
Okay. Any further questions? Great. Thank you, Dr. McDade. Does that wrap up your superintendent's time and the budget?
Yes, that concludes the superintendent's time for this evening.
Outstanding. 1601 revision policy 333, public-private grants, first reading. Mr. Youssef? Dr. McDade?
Mr. Youssef is going to provide a brief overview of the revisions to the grants policy.
So just to give a background, we did a comprehensive review of our grants management process, and we looked at our policy and regulations. We've streamlined the regulations. We've developed a grants handbook and come up with detailed procedural changes. So as far as the policy 33-1 goes, we've removed the reference to, there was a position that was responsible for the entire grants management process, and we've consolidated that function under the review, under the budget department. So as grants get developed, the budget department will review those applications and coordinate with the different program offices. Budget is very essential with grants because there is It is a great source of revenue, but it could require matches and local matches that could increase our costs without us knowing. So that is something that we wanted to bring into the budget department, and that's reflected in the policy. And then the other one is a change in the title of the Associate Superintendent for Financial and Support Services to the Chief Financial Officer.
Questions? If you have any questions, please get them to Mr. Youssef over this week or two, or Dr. McDade, and we'll be up for final vote in the next board meeting. 1602, redistricting proposal for new residential development. Mr. Blake, you read the motion.
I move that the Prince William County School Board approve the proposed redistricting for new residential developments, Bristol Corner, Bristol Crossing, and Thomas Farm at Bristol Station.
I have a second. Ms. Seconds. Any discussion? Ms. Tredenick?
I'd just like to thank you guys for working on this. I really appreciate it, and I think the Brentsville District residents have appreciated it, and I do want to clear up one point of issue that they brought up. I know I talked about it last time, but I was just going to say it one more time, that it does not affect any current students at the Nokesville School. That was a piece of misinformation that was going around. It does affect that one student, but we've talked about grandfathering him in, or him or her in. So thank you so much for all your hard work on this, and thank you to my colleagues for working together on this as well.
Please vote.
The vote is 7 yes, 1 no. Williams, motion passed.
Moving on to 1603, policy revisions. We now have several revisions to policies for the first reading tonight, and they are available to read in their entirety on the board docs under agenda items 16.03 to 16.06. If the board has any questions regarding the revisions and deletions, Division Counsel Wade Anderson is available to answer them now and over the next couple weeks. As you all know, this is the first reading, so I would, as you've all had for the last week or so, to take a look at it, but certainly take the next week or two to take a look at it and certainly get your questions. And if anyone has any questions on 1603 to 6, please share them now. Ms. Tredenick.
Wade, can you just clarify for me what this entails? We're not getting rid of any of these things. We're not abolishing them. Can you just explain that a little bit?
Sure, Mr. Tredenick. As you know, as the board is aware, Division Counsel's office in conjunction with the clerk's office has been working to sort of review, as we're supposed to do every 5 years, and clean up and make some changes where needed to the 0 series and the 100 series that belong to the board. As part of that effort, these policies are up for review. One of the things that we are doing now is, for some reason, there were regulations attached to some of these policies. It's not clear why, but because the board typically does not adopt regulations, that's for the superintendent to do. And since this is the board series, we're converting everything to policies. So before there's any fake news out there that we're getting rid of the Pledge of Allegiance or we're getting rid of a moment of silence, that's not true. We're simply taking what's in the regulation, making sure it's all in the policy. So that's certainly the case for those. I do need to point out something that my astute and unofficial editor and proofreader, Ms. Wall, caught on with respect to the revisions to Policy 102. And so in that case, down in 102, where we missed one piece where it says that the superintendent is responsible for reviewing and enforcing that policy, that of course should be the board. It's the board's policy, and so we'll make that change between now and the next meeting when it's up for action, and we'll redline that to be available for the board. But that's the only minor change that we missed that it should be the board. So thank you, Ms. Wall.
Great. Yeah, it's like having ChatGPT right next to me. We're moving on to board matters. Last week we started Mr. Wilk. This week we'll start with Ms. Zargapur.
Thank you, Dr. Lateef. Last weekend, I went to see the district band concert, and it was really, it was fantastic. And while I was sitting there, I was remembering when I was a kid in this school division, I started that in middle school. I auditioned for all county and district band and things like that, and in high school, I got to do all state and all kinds of other things. And I was remembering how, we would sit with people we didn't know, read the music, put on a concert literally 12 hours later. And kids continue this tradition. I think they get to practice the music a little bit more than we did, but it was still thrilling to sit there. But one thing that's definitely changed since I was a kid, because I remember being involved in a National Symphony program where I got to talk to professional musicians, and a lot of people told me at the time, there's not a lot of women in professional music. And they kind of cautioned the girls to not go into the schools of music and want to be performers, temper our expectations. But what I was thinking about was at this event, there was a female conductor, and there were pieces written by female composers, which is something I would not have seen as much of when I was a student. So I just was reflecting at that change and thinking, wow, we have just so many more things that our kids can look forward to doing. I'm going to keep it short because we're all tired and there's some icy weather coming in, so I will yield the rest of my time.
Ms. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. February is one of my favorite months. It is Black History Month, so I would like to say that Black history is American history, and I appreciate going to all the celebrations. In my house, it is a daily activity. Well, it's really a yearly activity because you don't even get to ask for time on your phone unless you give me a fact. But I think it is one of the things that one day I would like to see incorporated into our regular curriculum and our everyday life. I think that is an achievable goal, and I hope that we meet it one day. In other news, student profiles have been released. I think I mentioned this at the last meeting, but the announcement went out after our last meeting. So if you have a student, I think it's 6 through 12, please go into your Parent View app. Would be listed under the document section, and you can see a profile of where your student is currently and how they can be on track to graduate on time and have a thriving future. I would like to dedicate the rest of my time for a moment of silence. Freedom High School lost a very special person, Mr. Vern Lee. He was a basketball coach, but we all know I don't do anything really with sports except try to learn and fail miserably. But I knew him. He really was, I think Inside Nova said it best, the heartbeat of the school, but he was so much more. He was that person that you saw when you walked in the building that just smiled and it seemed to light up the entire building. You always felt loved in his presence. He just sort of radiated it. And I was at the home of some former Freedom students last year who had graduated several years ago, and it was just rooms full of tears. He will be dearly missed by everyone at Freedom, but not only Freedom, so many other events that he attended. And to have a person who is primarily in athletics and school security, but absolutely affected every asset of that building and every member of our community, I would just like to dedicate the rest of the time for a moment of silence for him. Thank you all. My deepest condolences to his family.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. Ms. Wall.
Thank
Thank you, Dr. Lateef. First, thank you to all of the schools for your support and for your posters and artwork. It really spices up the boardroom, and they're so the messages are so thoughtful and colorful and fun, so thank you. I just quickly, some events: All County High School Orchestra, All County Middle School Orchestra, and All District Band were some of the events I went to this last 2-week time period. All the performances were so well done, and the special guest conductors had very nice things to say about our students. So good job, everybody, and especially music educators for preparing your students so well. That Hilton Performing Arts venue was particularly special, and the middle school students were just on their very best behavior, and they were absolutely awesome. Last evening, I spent some time at Unity Braxton for Mullen, Sudley, and Innovation. Had a pyramid concert. It's fun to see the little kids starting out and then to hear the all-county students who are just so good. I attended a spelling bee. I went to a military pathways event for students at Battlefield, and they had representatives from all of the members, all of the armed forces, all the branches of the armed forces. They did a Q&A with the kids and gave them time to talk with them. It's a really great event. And we had a STEM night at Alvey with high school groups. A lot of Battlefield clubs came out, community partners, parents, and they even had a mobile planetarium. It was very awesome. Had a good time at VSBA, got to attend several committee meetings, and met some parents who are advocating for improved laws for managing type 1 diabetes in school. So great job, parent advocates. A couple of thoughts. This is definitely a politically charged environment right now, and things are changing rapidly, almost day to day. And my position has not changed on the model policies, the 2023 model policies in particular. I urged the board at that time to adopt them, and I continue to advocate my support of those model policies because it restores parental rights and decision-making about their children while at school, while also protecting the safety and dignity of all students. And I want to say that in light of the recent executive orders issued by the executive branch of the federal government, I look forward to seeing a comprehensive review of our policies and procedures to ensure that they are legally compliant. I think that's very important. I have a couple of other thoughts. I'm interested in how things are going with our cell phone pilot. I know we talked about it a lot a couple months ago. I'm knowing a little bit more about what we are planning to communicate to students and parents before they go away for the summer break so that they're fully ready to embrace the cell phone plan in the fall. So I would like to know an update on that. I'm extremely interested in what we can do to improve middle school science. I've already expressed some interest in that for our planning for the strategic plan going forward. I am continuing to monitor the enrollment numbers of schools in my district. I'm very closely watching 2 of my schools that have low enrollment numbers. And as always, it's a privilege to represent the Gainesville district, and I hope everybody has a great evening. Thank you.
Mr. Jesse.
Yeah, I'm just going to hit a couple things quickly here. I attended the Mega Talent Show. That's the show that they hold every year. It was at Freedom High School this year. I also went to the Potomac Lake Ridge the basketball game, or Woodbridge basketball game, I'm sorry. And Potomac won both the boys and the girls game, so that was a little disappointing, but I was hoping to see Mr. Wilkes there to egg me on. But the other thing, I went to the Student Voice Center grand opening at Woodbridge High School. This is a new project that was started by the students themselves, and they now have a center where kids can come in if they have situations and talk to them on different occasions. So it was really something to see that they are doing that. And the last thing I went to is the robotic event at, I think it was Lake Ridge Middle. And all I can say is Lake Ridge Middle is doing wonders for both the drone and the robotics competition. So game is on with them, and they are doing wonderful with that. So I just wish everybody a safe trip home, and looking forward to continue to be of service. Thank you.
Mr. Denick.
Thank you. I ran for this office on the promise to keep our kids safe and stand up for common sense practices within our school. This includes keeping boys out of girls' sports and locker rooms. I was happy to see the executive order signed by President Trump today. I was also excited to see some of our Prince William County schoolgirls standing by his side in the White House and making their voices heard. I've been assured that the school system is working to review all the changes being made, including the ones today, to ensure that our policies remain legally compliant. I will work tirelessly to address any issues identified within our schools. I also want to say thank you to all of our schools for their posters that they work so hard on decorating the boardroom. I love seeing the drawings, especially innovation schools. I think it's such a cool one. It's around the corner over here, but I think they should really consider using that in their yearbook because it was awesome work by all the students. One of my favorite things I did this weekend was bring my husband and my youngest son to go to Unity Reed High School to visit the Unity Reed Lions drill meet team and to see them compete. I was so impressed with these kids, getting to see Pho and Balin again, they are such amazing leaders on that team, getting to see their excitement, their joy, the way these kids cheer each other on. Congrats to both of them and Romeo for ranking in the top 3 in the competition. I've been making my rounds to each of my schools this month. One thing I wanted to say is I'm extremely thankful to my principals, vice principals, and front office for being part of the glue that makes each one of our schools run. They work very hard. I'm looking forward to continuing to visit schools, and especially going back to Teakley Wood to be a part of Leadership Day, which I don't know what that's about yet, but I'm excited to see those quality leaders and learners achieving excellence. I also enjoyed this week being a part of my first Safe Schools advisory meeting. I'm thankful to all of you that work around the clock to ensure our kids' physical safety. So that's all I have.
Mr. Wilk.
Thank you, Mr. Tregenik. I just real quick, a couple events, that I attended. I do love the Unified Sports Program in Prince William County and the expansion of what we're doing, what our teachers are doing, and the students who partake in that. It's amazing. The inclusion is amazing, and watching these kids engage with one another. And so I was at Woodbridge Senior High School, Mr. Jesse, I was there. Watching these kids play this past Saturday, it was great, a phenomenal event. And my 2 schools were there, both Forest Park and Potomac High School. We're representing the Potomac District, made us very proud. A couple other basketball's been like what I've been doing a lot of. Potomac and Forest Park played the best 2 teams in the Cardinal Division again. And Potomac won this bout as well. Montclair had a bingo night that I made it to, and Henderson had a book fair. I do want to just, on a more somber note, just mention and say my prayers are with, on the 30th of January, there was the worst air disaster in the United States since 2001, where 64 people on an American Airlines regional jet from Kansas collided with 3 people on a helicopter, resulting in everyone perishing. So I just wanted to, given that there were a number of Northern Virginia residents, especially from Loudoun and Fairfax County, my prayers are with them, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention that. Thank you.
Mr. Blake.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since our last meeting, I've had the privilege of visiting several schools, Fitzgerald, Penn, Bevel, Hampton, D. Garfield, and King Elementary. Every visit reinforced what I already knew, that our schools embrace every student and believe in their ability to succeed. I also had the pleasure of visiting King Elementary and attending their MLK assembly. And I just want to give a special thank you to Mrs. Poe and Mrs. Jenny for keeping Dr. King's spirit alive in the school that bears his name. It was a powerful reminder of why we must continue fighting for access, opportunity, and excellence for every child. Then I also attended the VSBA Capital Conference with Ms. Zagapur, Ms. Wall, and our communications team. And We met with our legislatures to advocate for some key priorities, not just for Prince William County, but for the entire Commonwealth, making sure our schools have the resources they need to serve students is a top priority for us. And at Enterprise last week, I attended the Title I Literacy is Sweet Family Night, where families came together for an evening of face painting, poetry, slime making, and journaling, all centered around literacy. Seeing that level of family engagement was inspiring. It's a reminder that education is a partnership between schools and the community. And speaking of community, I want to take a moment to thank our churches, businesses, and organizations that continually support our families and students. We can't do this alone, and your partnership makes a real difference. And so, a couple more things. Last night, I also attended a string pyramid concert, but it was for Minnieville, Neabsco, Dale City, and Bel Air at Hampton Elementary, and it was a great night of music. It really is, they sounded good too. I don't remember it sounding like that when Bella was playing strings, but they did a real good job last night. And finally, I would want to congratulate the Garfield High School boys basketball team on their senior night victory over Freedom last night. It was a great win for the Red Wolves. And I'll close with this. In times of division, our strength comes from unity. Our community thrives when we listen, uplift, and work together, not as opponents, but as neighbors committed to a better future for our children. As always, I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve and witness firsthand the incredible things happening in our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Blake. Thank you, Board. Thank you, Dr. McDade. This is always a big night. I think that, it's said that, one's budget is a reflection of their values. I'm very, very proud of this budget. I think the proposed budget from the superintendent does reflect the values of the school board, the superintendent's office, our teachers, our staff, and certainly the work I believe I've been able to do on this board for the last 7 years. The largest portion of the increase in this budget goes to compensation, typically as always, but it is a strong compensation package that really helps us reward our teachers, helps us recruit and retain our teachers, and really will make Prince William County Schools maybe the first choice where teachers come to work. We are achieving a first-year salary that is extremely competitive with our neighbors for the first time ever, and this puts us really in the realm of recruiting some of the top talent coming out of our universities and folks who might be wanting to move to the area and teach in our division. And I really believe, it is true, research shows it out, the biggest driver of student performance is the quality of the teacher in the room. If you take a look at this budget is committed to things that will help improve our teaching and learning, the teacher in the room, accountability. It adds positions to free up the folks in the building from having to do things that don't impact student learning to now being able to move into positions to help our teachers, help our students do the work that we ask them to do every day. I'm very proud of this budget. I think if you were to take a look at this budget and say, what is the strength of this budget? This is an exclamation mark on the top of Dr. McDade's first 4 years of her commitment to really catching up on the salary, but on the, my 7th year of one of the largest budgets in the Commonwealth and certainly one of the largest in the nation for a school, we have given a record number of raises to teachers since 2018. I believe the largest set of raises of any school division in the same period, same time, anywhere in the nation. And again, that's a reflection of the values that I believe I bring to this board and this board has really committed to doing for its community. And I think that, if more than anything else, is an incredible driver to the student performance we have. I've always talked about increasing counselors. We've been able to do that every year. on and off for the last 6, 7 years, dramatically improving our ratios. I will continue to sort of push for that. I think that's really critical, and everyone knows that's very close to my heart as well. I want to reiterate to the public that Prince William County remains one of the most welcoming, open school divisions in the nation, a place where we will welcome you, keep you safe, protect you, and make sure that you get the best out of the time you spend with us for your own progress and for you to launch your own thriving future. Thank you very much, and this board meeting is adjourned.